What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So let's start this video with this 5.5 weeks out physique update from Carlos Thomas Jr. So for those people who were getting kinda worried about the lack of separation in Carlos's quads, well, this update right here, this will clear things up. Because if we compare his 10 weeks out physique update, the front double biceps, to this one, there are some noticeable improvements. Not just in the quality of muscle, but he has a lot more separation now. And just going back and looking at his pro debut, which was Texas Pro, when he wasn't in a crazy good condition. But even back then, he had decent separation in his legs. So this will no longer be a concern. Now the fact that this is taken without any pump, fasted in the morning, that makes it even more impressive. Now Carlos looking like that at 5.5 weeks out, that does make him feel so confident that the man is out there giving all those interviews that him versus Derek, that is gonna be a real matchup. And there is no way he sees himself outside of that top 4. Now there could not have been a better option than Patrick Tour as Carlos's coach, because he will make sure that Carlos shows up in the best condition of his pro career so far. Because the conditioning and the level of detail, that was something that was missing on Carlos's physique the last time we saw him on the stage, and that was at Texas Pro, the only show that he has done so far. Now will Patrick be able to help him get a very thin skin? Because that has a lot to do with genetics as well. Well, the front double biceps is absolutely nuts. And his front relaxed, that is also extremely impressive. And that is actually really good for him. Because both these shots they set the tone, and they're gonna help him a lot in those comparisons with all of these top guys. Now I have got to say Derek Lunsford must show up with bigger quads. Because Carlos is gonna be so dominant in the lower half, especially next to those guys who has the same height as him. So I believe this is gonna be a very interesting comparison. Next up is the 5.5 weeks out physique update from James Hollingshead. I think this might be the very first time he's checking in person with his coach Stefan, and it is safe to say that some size has been gained. For the record, out of all the guys that Stefan is prepping for this upcoming Arnold, and those include Sean Carrera, the 2 times 212 Olympia champion, as well as former 2 times Arnold champion William Bonac. Stefan predicted that James is gonna place the highest out of all these guys. So I was looking back at some of the pictures of James from his Arnold prep last year, and it did look amazing multiple times leading into that show. But I also believe that that picture was taken very close to the competition last year before the Arnold. Another thing to mention here is that these new pictures, they must also be taken without any pump, and as James gets more streamlined, which is obviously gonna happen in these upcoming weeks, he is gonna become more and more aesthetic. And that of course is in relative terms to his own frame. But still, in my opinion, there is just no way James beats a guy like Andrew Jacked. And that prediction of Stefan, that was totally unrealistic in my opinion. Now we have seen James Hollingshead much more crispier in his previous preps, but the light used for this recent picture in this recent update, that is making him look a bit washed out, and that is totally understandable. So this is gonna be a very anticipating comeback, as he was top 5 at the same show last year, and he was the one who picked himself for that show. So fingers crossed, and hopefully we are gonna see him at his all-time best. Guys, Mr. Olympia Signature Series is now live on hostel.com. Use the code FAZI10 to get 10% discount, and click the arrow below to check out all the Hostel products. Next up is the off-season physique update of John Jewett. Man, just take a look at the evolution of this man. Ever since he switched over from the 212 to the men's open class, and that just makes you go wow, because that has to be one of the most impressive transformation that we have seen in the recent past. He was able to improve on every single thing, every single aspect, and the most impressive aspect of this whole transformation is that his conditioning right now, at his heaviest ever off-season weight, that looks better than ever. That looks better than 2 years ago, when he was almost 25 pounds lighter. Now John had a phenomenal men's open debut back in 2023, and he had an even more impressive Olympia debut last year. And if only he stayed as good during the finals of the Olympia last year, as he showed up for the prejudging, he was well on his way to beat a guy like Brendan Curry and place top 10 at his Olympia debut. So glad that he made that switch to the men's open class, because had he stayed in the 212, that would have been a total waste of talent. Now, for those of you guys who do not know, John is one of those guys who coaches himself, and he actually does a superb job at it, as the man is one of the most knowledgeable person in the current circuit of Pro League. He's gonna continue with this offseason to make all those additional gains and compete maybe later this year. Now, I for one wanna see if John can improve on that quad sweep, if he can add more size on the sweep of his quads, because that is gonna make his X frame even more appealing and even more pronounced. He already has some of the best abductors in the game, and he is one of the most conditioned guy out there. Guys, Gorilla Wear is offering a massive discount of up to 70% right now. Use the code Fazi10 to get 10% extra discount. Next up, we have a physique update from Tonio Burton. Now, if we put this front double biceps next to Carlos Thomas Jr., Carlos is definitely gonna make him look small. Now, that obviously is my assumption, but we have to keep in mind, Tonio brings so much quality, so much separation and detail, and the man is just so damn ripped that he is totally undeniable. So there is a reason why he was top 8 at the Olympia back in 2023, beating a guy like Regan Grimes and Hassan Mustafa, guys who are way bigger than him. And secondly, Tonio Burton is very complete from the back. His back shots are just money shots for him. But that being said, I have got to say, if he doesn't show up with considerable size improvements, the judges are gonna mark him down, and they are gonna have a very simple feedback for him that they gave him last year after the New York Pro, that he just isn't big enough. Now, I am confident that with Tonio's choice of the first show for this year, which is gonna be Legion Sports, he's gonna win that one and qualify for the Olympia. But to repeat another top 8 finish at the Olympia level, Tonio needs to be bigger, because Rafael Brandao was the one who was given 8th place at the Olympia last year, and Tonio was unable to beat Rafael Brandao at the Arnold Brazil last year, and that was a very vulnerable version of Rafael Brandao. So what do you guys think? Will Tonio be able to close that size gap and be a force for the top 10 at this year's Miss Olympia, which we all know is turning out to be a lot more combative than last year? So with this upcoming 2025 men's open season looking more combative than ever, what's the future look like for 3-time Olympian Andrea Presti, who got very mixed signals from the judges because his placings in the last 2 shows, which were in those post-Olympia shows, and that was 5th. That isn't something that Presti is looking for, especially in an Olympia qualifier. And the reason I'm saying this was confusing is because that same version of Andrea Presti, who had weaker legs, he placed runner-up behind Hunter Labrada in Italy, and same was the case in France against Samson Dauda just 2 weeks before the Olympia. But in the post-Olympia shows, he placed as low as 8th, and that was in Prague. I guess those looks in France and Italy, they were very competitive in the eyes of the judges. He had great fullness, and he had amazing size, but at the same time, he was extremely shredded everywhere. I guess he was extremely unlucky that he had to compete against 2 of the top guys. And then he lost to Bruno Santos in Europa Pro, which was the hardest pill to swallow because the man was in the lead at the prejudging. So Presti, although gets a lot of negative feedback in the comment section whenever I mention him, especially in regards to his legs, I think he still has a very good shot at getting his 4th Olympia qualification this year, especially if he chooses the right shoe and also nails every aspect of the peak to his 100%, to his absolute best. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.